from Pop Turner speaking to Mika Abdalla about Snack Shack, which is going to be in theaters March 15th. Welcome back to the show. It's so good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
You know, this was one of those movies where, like, when I saw the trailer for it, I was like, I have to see this movie because it just reminded me of some of my favorite movies growing up, like
Yeah.
Super Bad, you know, Adventureland. Did you kind of think about that when you're reading the script that, wow, this has this like kind of like 90s comedy kind of feel to it right off the get-go?
Totally. Like I grew up watching a lot of like 80s, 90s, coming of age comedies with my parents. And so yeah, I was really excited reading the script and kind of feeling like it had that same vibe.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you read a script like this and then you go and film it. And in a lot of ways, those are two separate journeys from a storytelling acting perspective. Did it feel like two kind of separate journeys? Because a lot happens right before you film, or did it feel like one big journey with many steps?
It kind of, look, our Adam, the writer and director, he's so good at putting like feelings into words and like putting all of that he wanted to encapsulate on paper. And so I just remember sitting on the couch, like I remember where I was sitting on the couch reading the movie and just feeling like from that first scene, feeling so sucked into the film and so excited and like just having that feeling, having the vibe, which I feel like is so much of the movie is just like, nostalgia or just it's just a feeling. Like it's a yeah. Um so it all kind of felt the same. Like there was such an easy flow from reading the script to showing up on set and then actually shooting it. Like it all just felt very cohesive and easy.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot kind of going through your mind as an actor, kind of going back in time for a role, because you know you're doing a film that takes place in the 90s, right? Is there
Yeah.
anything specifically you're thinking about before kind of diving into the filming? Like, are you thinking about what they're wearing, how they're gonna speak, like the music? Like, what's the main thing going through vibe wise before filming?
I feel like honestly, because we got to shoot in Nebraska City, which hasn't changed a lot in the last, 30 or so years, as according to Adam. And Hannah, our costume designer, just did such a great job with like bringing that vibe of like the wardrobe, into play.
Mhm.
I feel like there wasn't a lot of mental prep
Yep.
other than just being very, we speak a very particular way today that kind of dates us or ages us or whatever. I feel like the only thing that I really had to think about was like not talking the way that I'm talking right now.
Yeah.
Um, you know, but but other than that, like no, again, we were just like so fully immersed in the vibe of the 90s and um yeah, that it just wasn't there wasn't a lot of prep going into it. And also like the story of the movie, it kind of transcends like generation and transcends its time. Like everybody can relate to the story and what happens and being, 14, 15, 16 and
Mhm.
trying to like figure out how to be an adult and whatever. Like, yeah, it at times I feel like we all kind of forgot that we were shooting a movie based in the 90s.
Yeah. No, for
Yeah.
sure. You know how it is. We're always walking on eggshells when we do these interviews, right? Because we don't want to say much. You know how it is, Mika. It was the same thing
Yeah.
when we talked about sex appeal on Hulu,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What we can talk about is the fact that there is a little bit of a love triangle that happens in this movie, right? Because it's in the trailer, right?
Right.
Reading that on script, what was that kind of like, seeing that kind of like filming it and then like seeing it on script and then actually going and filming it, having that kind of, interesting love triangle come to life? Because there's a lot I'm sure that you could see in the script, but like all three of you, like you, Gabe, and Connor, did an amazing job with that. And I was so invested. You know what I mean? So what was that
Yeah.
like actually filming that specifically with them?
It was really weird and really funny because we did all of that like love triangle stuff towards the end of shooting
Okay.
and we had all become really good friends. We
Yeah.
weren't in a big city obviously, so we really only hung out with each other and like the rest of the cast and crew. So we had our own like they really became like brothers to me. Just like at least very, very close friends. And so it was
Yeah.
something. It was pretty interesting. And then also because like they're also on set like I don't know how to say it without like giving anything away, but like they're on set at the same time as I'm shooting some of these scenes with like the other, and so then they're all like, like joking about it, and it was really funny. it was a lot of fun. It was very like low stress and just it felt silly.
Do any of your like past projects come to play when you prepare for a new project? They're very separate. The reason I ask this is obviously different movies, different characters, but kind of similar vibes a little bit, with a little bit of the slapstick comedy with Sex Appeal and with
Yeah.
this movie, right? Like,
Yeah.
do you bring kind of elements to Sex Appeal into your preparation for a movie like Snack Shack, or are they completely separate?
That's a really good question. I didn't really think, I haven't thought about that.
That's why I'm here. I try to bring the good questions. That's why you came
um,
back on the show. I'm just
yeah.
saying.
I I don't know. I mean, I'm inclined to say no. I mean, I kind of feel like they felt like very different projects to me. I honestly feel like Brooke um w- is a lot more like myself, and I feel like had to I had to add in a little bit more to play Avery and Sex Appeal.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, I feel like they were also just like the types of comedy are very different, and yeah, no, I feel like they were pretty separate to me.
Yeah, and I don't
Yeah.
know if we talked about this last time about Sex Appeal, but like it's been out for a while, so spoiler alert. I loved one of my favorite things about that is I loved that you and Jake's character, like, you did not get together at the end. That
I
was
know,
like one
yeah.
of my favorite things, to be honest with
I
you.
know. People
Because
either hate
I was
that
so
or love it.
frustrated about that whole thing, and then it was like, oh, they're going their separate ways. I kind of like this.
Yeah, some people really hated that. I'm like, well, get over it. I don't
Well,
know.
I didn't hate it. I loved it, to be
Yeah,
honest
I
with you.
loved it. I love it. I
Yeah.
think it's
I love this movie. This is like one of my favorite movies. Snack Shack was so good.
thank
And
you.
you're so great in it.
Thank you.
And I wanted to know specifically because your character is a lifeguard in this, right?
Mhm.
Were you ever a lifeguard growing up?
No, and I'm actually a horrible swimmer. And what's really funny is when every time Connor and I watch the movie, we like are like elbowing each other because there's a scene where I'm like towing Connor through the water,
Mhm.
like armpit towing him, like saving, like doing, I don't know. Um, and I couldn't do it. Like we were trying to figure out ways to get me to
Oh.
be able to do this. And they're like trying to figure out how to like sneak Connor kicking his feet and helping me because I'm just like not athletic. I'm not a good swimmer, and it was
Did you know that your character Brooke was like a lifeguard, like when you auditioned for it? Like, how much did you
yeah.
know in the audition?
No, I knew she was a lifeguard, and when we did the chemistry read, we went into the office. It was like also our first in-person chemistry read since COVID, which was
Okay.
crazy. Um, and all the producers were there, which was also crazy because that usually isn't the case. And we were in a theater, and I remember someone asking me like what my swimming experience is, and I was just like, well, my parents had a pool growing up, so like I swam a lot, and they're like, okay, cool, so she's a good swimmer. And then I got on set, and I was like, I didn't ever tell anybody that I was a good swimmer.
The audition stories, the best.
I was like, hmm, I don't think I misled you.
I think there's three things I love the most about this movie. One is the obvious one. It's hilarious. Like, it's so funny.
Thank you.
Two, it's very, there's like self-reflection components all over the place, right? And then three, I think the heart component of it and like the importance of, friendship and family is really in there as well. Out of those three things I brought up, it being funny, the self-reflection, and the heart, is there one that you like the most about it in terms of filming it and being part of this project?
Hmm.
They're all
I
great and they're all
They're all,
big
yeah,
pros.
it's kind of tough. I mean, I really liked how lighthearted, so much of the movie is.
Mhm.
Because it just made it so fun to shoot. And honestly, like comedy is sometimes like a tricky thing for me.
Mhm.
Um, but I do feel like that is most of my fond memories of being on set have to do with like just how funny everybody was and how fun the whole environment was. Um, yeah, it was a comedy that didn't stress me out
Mhm.
ever, which
Comedy
was
is very hard because I'm a creative as
yeah,
well, and I write, and
yeah,
I have some shorts that I've produced and went to
yeah.
camera with, but they're like dramas and horror movies. Like I love comedy, but it's hard to like write comedy. Like it
It's
is.
it's the worst. It's so scary. Like I can cry. Like if you would give me something that's super sad, I can do it easy, no problem. But like being funny is not
But there's because certain
super.
people are gonna laugh at certain things. I find it
Yeah.
interesting too. Did you like? I talked to a lot of actors that did theater growing up, and I find that the most interesting thing, Mika, because they're doing like, 4 or 5 shows. And let's say
Yeah.
there's like a show where it is like funny at times, if it's a musical that has a lot of comedy in it, different audience members are going to laugh at different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Snack Shack, right? There's going to be some moments that people are going to find funny, or like people have different sense of humors in a lot of way, right?
Yeah. Well, that's what was so interesting. We just did our first public screening a couple of days ago, with people that like weren't friends and family or filmmakers or whatever. And it was crazy to see the things that people laugh at versus the things that like we all laugh at or my family laughed at. Like it is so true. Everyone just has such different threshold, or different things make different people laugh.
100%. I want to know, one of my favorite things about this was the music in this movie, and I love 90s music. Were you listening to a lot of like 90s music, getting in the mood specifically? And if what was your playlist like specifically? Any songs that you're really listening to?
Adam, I don't know if I can name specific songs like off the top of my head. I'm really bad at that. But Adam sent us all of us a playlist, like a 2-hour long playlist or
All
something.
these like 90s songs.
That he curated, and he was like, hey guys, just so you know, like these are the songs I was listening to in 91, and like that's all we all listened to, like for a month and a half leading up to shooting.
There's always going to be pressure doing something that's like based on original source material or something based on someone's real life. You know what I mean? Yeah. What was your kind of, preparation knowing that it might be a challenge? Because I always find that difficult. Anytime there's something based on something that happened, or anytime it's based on a book that we saw before they're making a new movie, it's like that push and pull of like, doing it justice and then being its own thing, right? Like, what's that like for you? I'm curious.
For me, my character was kind of, I had it a little bit easier. My character was like an amalgamation of different like people in Adam's life. Conor, I think, had the most stress. He was essentially playing Adam. Like, I think that like that kind of messed with his head a little bit more. But honestly, Adam has such a clear, I think it made the process a lot easier because Adam had such a clear vision of what he wanted and what the feeling was, that we would just go and talk to him and he would tell us stories, and he's such a good storyteller, and you feel like you're a part of the story that he's telling, and then he kind of sends you off to set and you're just like telling that story now. So he just made it so easy. And again, like being in Nebraska City, I think was the most valuable thing, because you're just, again, you're like immersed. You're so immersed in it. The theater that we're shooting in is the theater that Adam hid behind the screen with his best friend in high school, like hiding, just, it was, I think, best case scenario for all of us.
I love that you brought up the screening and seeing kind of the reactions and everything. And I feel like the answer to this question is probably going to be no, but I'm going to ask it anyway. But like, were you ever conscious of the audience member watching Snack Shack while you were filming it? Or were you too much, or is it like just in the zone, not thinking about it, just doing the scenes and everything? Like, I'm just curious about that. Were you ever like, oh, people are going to really laugh at this encounter? Or like, people are going to really laugh at this? Was there ever moments like that after like at lunchtime or anything where you were talking to everyone like, oh, wow, I can't wait to see the reactions?
I feel like, I feel like, yes. I think there was a lot more, it was a lot more like, I can't wait to see this than anything,
That's awesome.
And just like knowing little secrets behind little things, or like, I don't know. I'm sure we did. I'm trying to think of a specific example, but I can't. I'm sure the thoughts crossed our minds, but definitely it was constantly like, oh my God, I can't wait to see how this cuts together, or like this is gonna like send me into orbit when I see it for the first time on screen. Like, yeah.
And I can't wait for people to see it March 15th in theaters, Snack Shack. It's so good. It's one of my favorite films of the year so far. Like, I loved every minute of it. Mika, so great catching up with you. Thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you.
Your Instagram account is just your name, right? If people want to keep update with everything.
Mika.Abdalla.
Awesome. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popturn. For previous episodes, you can, of course, catch Mika Abdalla in Snack Shack in theaters March 15th. Till next time, this is Mika and Petey Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.